Good morning. One of my favorite authors in all of church history is a guy named Athanasius. It's probably one of the best names I've ever heard. He was a black North African theologian that wrote a number of amazing defenses and responses to people that thought Christianity wasn't true. But then on top of that, he also is the one that, get this, he's the first person to list all of the 27 books that we now comprise in our New Testament. He is responsible, one of the first voices, for the books that we have in the New Testament. Now, another major contribution that he had was the word Trinity. We have references in the New Testament about God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but it was really Athanasius who made a strong defense, and he actually would go around and speak to all these bishops and pastors and help them to understand the idea of the Trinity. Now, when he wrote about the Trinity, we actually have a copy of some of his selected works and letters right here. This is a fantastic series too, really groundbreaking back in its day. But he would go around and talk about the Trinity. And when he did, he often talked about the three persons of the Trinity. And it's very important that he says persons. Now, why is this? And don't worry, we're going to connect this actually, quite seriously, to youth culture and to what struggles you guys are going through right now. I'm being completely honest. When we talk about the Trinity as having three persons, like God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, there's this general understanding that you can be an individual or you can be a person. But individuals aren't in community. And in fact, American culture says, go, be an individual. But to be an individual means you're not tethered or tied to anyone in community. And so actually, personhood is something very different from your being an individual. Personhood is something that can only be done, only be discovered with other people. And so when Athanasius said there's three persons in the Trinity, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Because even God and God's own self is who God is because of being inherently community. Did you ever think about that? God is community. 3 in 1, 1 in 3? Okay. But what does that have to do with you guys? What does this have to do with youth culture, right? Well, a lot of you guys are dealing with enormous amounts of stress, anxiety. You can have depression. We've had some real tragedies happen here on the main line. In case because there's so much pressure put on you to perform, right? To do well on tests in your 10th grade so you can get into the class in the 11th grade, so you can have the right AP test in 12th grade so you get to the right college. All of these stressors are all backed up. And some people like to think that those are the most important tasks for you at your age. And just in case no one else says it, I'll say it. That's completely wrong. All of you people that are between 6th and 12th grade, the most important thing for you, I'm going to get some bad emails about this, is not how well you do on a test. It's not about how well you achieve sports status, by how great of an athlete you are. Actually, those are not the most important thing, even to being the best musician possible. The most important task for you guys at your stage of life is actually to become a person, not to achieve anything. And I worry that on the main line, we rush achievements on you guys before you even figure out who you are as a person. Now, fellowship is the word for the day. Fellowship is important. And in case you haven't noticed, I'm going to say, maybe you can deduce it, fellowship is important because it tells us who we are as persons. You see, a lot of us have realized during the course of COVID that it's very difficult to be without community. And it's true. I was speaking with someone that I know who's a doctor who said, get this, isolation is inherently traumatic. That means it's very difficult to deal with, and to live alone, not having any social interactions with other people, is actually detrimental not only to this health, but to your actual physical heart health, to the rest of your being. So let's do this. Let's put aside all of these conversations in America about being an individual, about standing alone and standing on your own. Because the real mojo, the real magic, the real juice of Christianity is actually in fellowship, where you can be a person that relates with other people just like the Trinity does. Now, church is important. And as you've already noticed, I've often said church has nothing to do with the building. The church has everything to do with the gathering, the fellowship. When people come together and they have unconditional outpouring of love and humility and joy and wonder and service to each other, and then it flows back to us, and then we flow it back to other people, and it goes all around. Because the church, at its best, looks very much like the Trinity, of this endless community of love and joy between persons, not individuals. Isn't that cool? So a lot of us, we tend to think that sometimes theology doesn't have anything to say. But I'm saying right here, theology tells me we need fellowship. Because especially at your stage of life, those of you between 6th and 12th grade, your main task right now is to figure out who you are. Figure out who you are in community. Figure out who you are in fellowship with other people. And by doing that, you'll actually be setting yourself up for lifelong success. If you can take seriously the task of being around people that love you well and can tell you and maybe work it out with you what it means to be who you are as a person. You feel me? You see, this is all very, very interesting stuff because, as you've noticed, for me, the Christian faith has a lot to do with how we thrive. It really does. It's the most glorious thing to God to see each of us thriving. And one of the ways that God protects us against not thriving is to put us in fellowship with like-spirited people. I don't say like-minded people, because it's not enough to just be around people that think like you. You actually need to be around people that have the same spiritual vitality as you. People that can love you unconditionally. People that can help pick you up from your own disappointments, that can celebrate with you in your own joys and successes. To be around people who know life is not about being an individual. It's about being a person that in our own very lives reflects the very Trinity that is God. So may you this week not take fellowship lightly. Spend time with people that have the same spirit as you. Make sure you continue friendships and relationships with people that know how to love you well, love you deeply, love you truthfully. And then maybe you can do the same thing back for them. Because it's only by doing that that we will actually be fulfilling what's said in Genesis chapter 1. Let us make them in our image. We are most in the image of God when we do it together. Grace and peace to all of you. Be well. Go live in fellowship.